Hello, come on in.
Hello,
I'm Tony.
I'm Megan.
Good to meet you, Megan. Did you have trouble finding the place or anything?
No, it was pretty easy,
Yeah, good. Traffic alright and everything?
surprisingly.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, very good, very good. Yeah, well, I guess let's start with just me saying what I do here. I'm a social worker. I do therapy individually with clients, like we'll be doing. I usually have numerous clients at once. Normally, I meet with them on a weekly basis for an hour. That can be adjusted as needed if necessary. Um, so to start with, on your end, I'd like to just get like familiarized with what brings you here, any expectations you have of therapy and whatnot. So yeah, start with just what brings you here today.
So I've been experiencing, well, I've had anxiety for as long as I can remember, but lately I've had a lot of panic attacks, and they seem to be getting worse, and my anxiety in general seems to be getting worse. Um, so I'm just here to see if I can do something to alleviate that.
Yeah, okay, very good. Do you have any specific expectations of therapy, or just to simply try to alleviate that?
I would say, I mean, like getting rid of my anxiety would be great,
Yeah.
but more realistically, probably just being able to confront situations where I think I might have a panic attack with more courage, for lack of a better word. Just like, not feeling like I have to not participate in things because I might feel anxious or I might have a panic attack.
Yeah.
And like, if I could cut down the panic attacks, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. So how long have you been having these panic attacks?
I would say probably a year.
Okay. Yeah. And how frequently do those happen?
At the beginning, it was less frequent. It was, like once in a month or something, and then over time, it got very frequent. Like every week, I would have them. But recently, they've decreased but like not because they've gotten better, but just because I've stopped doing things that trigger those.
Sure.
So
Makes sense. Yeah. And you said the anxiety in general, you've had that as far back as you can remember.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what does the anxiety feel like when that's happening?
It just feels like I'm kind of like my body reacts in a way that it feels like I'm like in a dangerous situation. Like my heart starts beating really, really fast, and I like maybe will like my breathing. It's weird, and I just get very like alert, kind of like I'm like in a state of um, not panic yet, but like arousal. Like I'm just very aware of everything that's happening.
Okay, yeah. And what are there specific situations that bring on the anxiety? The anxiety.
A lot of situations. I think mostly it has to deal with interactions with people that I don't know very well, but not really one-on-one interactions. More like in bigger groups. If I feel like isolated in some way, that makes me feel really anxious. Like if I'm in a group of people and like they all know each other, but I don't know any of them. Stuff like that. Also things like being places where I feel like I can't leave freely without people looking at me, or just like I can't leave, like on an airplane or something like that. Those are the main things, I think.
Okay, sure. Well, yeah, I mean those sort of situations definitely are situations I hear a lot of people experiencing anxiety from. I myself have definitely felt tense and stress in those situations, anxiety I'd say as well. So yeah, that's a very normal thing to experience, I'd say. And these situations are going to be the same situations that you've been avoiding more recently to avoid panic attacks then, correct?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, yeah. has that been getting in the way of things that like you have to do in your life then, by just trying to completely avoid these triggering situations?
I would say recently they have been. Like I still go to things that like I absolutely need to go to,
Mm-hmm.
like things for school or things for work. But there's definitely things that I should do or like I kind of need to do,
Mm-hmm.
like projects or um, stuff like that, where I have to like go somewhere and I just don't go, and I kind of just like chalk it up to I can't
Yeah.
do it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That sounds very limiting and constricting. Understandably, why you'd want to come and seek ways to possibly get past this. Definitely commend you for taking the time and energy to actually work on this and see what we can do about it. I'm definitely look forward to being able to help navigate this process with you. I'm sure it's not going to magically go away after our session today. It can probably be a long process. I think like the expectations you said early on were realistic, right? Like most people probably experience a certain sense of anxiety most of the time, or at least occasionally. I mean, most people experience some anxiety. But yeah, for you to be able to overcome the panic attacks in general and be able to have the freedom to go to these places, I think is a very reasonable goal to have in the long term throughout the course of being in therapy. So, what aside from removing yourself from the situations that might bring on anxiety or a panic attack, what other coping mechanisms have you experimented with so far?
Um, it's a good question. Not a lot.
Okay, that's all right.
I would say that when I'm in, when I, like those situations that I'm forced to go to something, like I can't get out of it,
Mm-hmm.
like going to school or something like that.
Yeah, it's a perfect situation.
I would kind of just like be near somebody that I'm comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
even if I'm not like talking to them or anything. Like having a person there that like I trust is sometimes helpful.
How often in those situations do you have someone who you do feel like you trust at least somewhat?
I would say probably half the time.
Yeah, okay. Well, that definitely seems like a very valuable coping mechanism to have. I mean, I think a support system in general, supportive people in your life that's a great strength to utilize on and to try to continue to build on that. That's certainly going to be a more effective and more I don't know a less limiting coping mechanism than avoiding the situations. Obviously, as you've already figured out, since you're able to go to these situations that you have to and use that. So that's awesome that you've found that. Are there any other things you found to just maybe be helpful? Maybe you don't have to coin them as a coping mechanism per se, but just things you found helpful with your anxiety in general or the panic attacks?
I think, I mean, I don't know if this counts as a coping mechanism or anything, but I think that when I'm in situations where I feel anxiety, sometimes like just not, like I'll be there, but not like kind of participating. Like that's kind of like not being there, but like not drawing a lot of attention to myself, like maybe being on my phone or like reading a book or like preoccupying my mind with something else.
Sure, yeah.
Sometimes is helpful, but sometimes feels like I'm doing like the same thing, like avoiding the situation.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think that still is a valuable thing to be able to do. At least that way you're still able to go there. Sure, maybe using the crutch of using your cell phone, but I mean, who doesn't do that at some point when they're nervous or whatever? So yeah, that's also seems like a at least positive way to at least get yourself out in these situations and not also be limited. So yeah, kudos to you for like figuring these things out. I think for my own things and clients I see, a lot of times they don't think they're doing enough for themselves. So remind yourself that like these are things you've figured out for yourself already, and like that you are effectively finding ways to cope with these situations. So are there times specifically in the last year that you've found yourself not experiencing anxiety, not experiencing panic attacks in these situations?
I mean, like, I don't think there's ever times where I am in these situations and I don't feel any anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes if I'm with somebody, but like different from like someone just being next to me, but like someone like experiencing the thing with me, I feel less anxious, or like depending on the person that is there.
So just for clarity's sake, if the person that is with you is also experiencing anxiety about that situation, that is comforting to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But like, I wouldn't say that I ever experience those situations without feeling any anxiety.
Okay, sure, yeah, absolutely. And then do you feel like there's anything in the last year that has made this problem more pronounced? I mean, you said that anxiety has been present for you throughout your whole life, or as far back as you can remember, but that like a year ago it seemed to get worse. Do you feel like there's anything that started that?
I mean, not necessarily. I feel like maybe I was more aware of my anxiety, and that kind of made it worse in a way.
Yeah.
Like, I was more aware that this is not something that everybody feels all the time. Like, because before, like everybody has anxiety. So I've always like kind of chalked it up to just like a normal human experience.
Right.
But like, kind of like talking to other people like in my life about it, and like kind of realizing that not everybody feels it in the situations that I feel it, or to the magnitude that I feel it.
Right.
I feel like kind of labeling it as like kind of like not like a sickness, but like a disorder or something, kind of maybe freaks me out a little bit.
Yeah,
makes me more aware of it, and then it gets worse.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. If you start to feel, if your anxiety is stemming from feeling of isolation, and then the fact that you're having anxiety makes you, knowing that it's different than other people, would in turn, you'd think, make you feel more isolated, more anxious.
That's
terrible cycle.
Didn't think about that.
So yeah, that absolutely makes sense. It's definitely good that you're aware of this stuff, to be able to know that labeling it as anxiety disorder only compounds the problem for you. I think that like just realizing that in its own, that's some good stuff that we can work with, and being able to look at it possibly in a new light, because I mean it is very common. I don't know the precise statistics, but I mean anxiety has to be one of the most common mental health things that people struggle with, at least currently. So knowing that too could help you. I don't know for sure, but I can definitely provide you with resources about how common anxiety is, how common social anxiety is, things like that. Because, well, yes, maybe not everyone experiences it. All right, so I'd also like to know more about like what your support network looks like, who the people are that help you through tough times, and who you can go to. So yeah, just who are the main people you trust when you're experiencing anxiety or panic attack?
I'd say my family is a big support system in my life. Like my mom, especially, I'm very, very close to my mom, and I'm very close to my sister. But my mom lives in Houston. My sister does live in Austin. But I call my mom a lot and talk about stuff like this because we're pretty similar people. So we kind of we like relate to that on kind of a good level.
Yeah, that's great.
In terms of people that aren't family, I would say I talk to my boyfriend a lot about it. He lives in Canada. In terms of friends, I mean, I have friends here, but I don't really. I feel like I regard anxiety, especially when it's like kind of social based,
Mm-hmm.
in kind of a taboo manner, because I feel like people are quick to, or maybe this is just my own like preconceived paranoia about it, is like I feel like people like kind of just label you as like socially awkward, or like you just don't understand how to, you know, be social, or
Mhm.
you're antisocial, or things like that. So I don't really bring it up with my friends, and even friends that I'm really close to. Like I have two friends that I'm very close to in Indiana, but I just don't feel comfortable like being that kind of level of vulnerable
Sure.
with those people.
Yeah, understandably. It's definitely a scary thing to be vulnerable with people, so I totally get that. Has there been exceptions to that where like friends that are here in person that you've tried to talk about this stuff with?
I wouldn't say that I've tried to talk to them about my anxiety, but I've tried to talk to them about other kind of vulnerable things, like you know, big issues in my life, like
Mhm.
deaths in the family, and like last summer, me and my boyfriend broke up, so that was a really hard time,
Mm-hmm.
and I like, couldn't go to my boyfriend, obviously,
Yeah,
who was like a big support person in my life.
Sure.
So I really heavily relied on the like two close friends that I have here.
Yeah.
For that, and you know, that was nice.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Did that go over fairly well?
Yeah, I think more with one than the other.
Sure.
Just because one was like more preoccupied with his own life. Which,
Yeah.
You know, understandable. People
Right.
have their own stuff they got to deal with.
Yeah.
I think it's just hard for me to, because the other friend that kind of I connected with, he's very like analytical and very like he's got like an engineering kind of mindset.
Sure.
So it's harder for him to kind of not just give advice
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard for me to swallow the advice, because especially when it comes from someone that I don't think really empathizes or understands what I'm going through, which is I feel like would be the case for anxiety.
Yeah.
Even though he probably does experience it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he does. I don't know.
Yeah.
We've never talked about it.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Is that something you're interested in doing in the future, like talking about this with people that are like friends of yours here in town, or not really a thing that you're interested in doing in the future?
I mean, I would say I am, because I do like the friends I have here, and I do feel like we are close. It's just mostly fear that is, you know, keeping me from doing that. Taking that step.
Yeah, understandably. I mean, especially if you have what seems to be like a social anxiety sort of thing, that bringing up that with like in a social setting would, of course.
Pickle.
Yeah, pickle. Yes. So but that's really awesome that you have, you know, like your sister here. That's super cool. You know, very good that you guys ended up in the same place. And then of course, you know, being able to reach out to your mom, who you feel like you relate a lot with. That's tremendous. I mean, I know for myself and many other clients, like having someone who relates deeply with it can really be a great strength. You know, it's not just someone who is willing to listen, but someone who actually gets it. You know, that's great. And then of course having the boyfriend as a resource too. That's very good. You know, so it's awesome that you have all these like close people to go to. Would you make it like a goal of yours in the near future to start reaching out to people here in town?
Yeah, I mean, like I could. I feel like I don't do that as much. Like I pretty much just rely on my boyfriend. I rely on my mom.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, no pressure, but if you decide you want to do that, that could be like a good short-term goal to be working on.
Hmm.